Hello and welcome to episode 12 of For Pete's Sake, the ongoing series in which I go through my dad's record collection one by one to try and figure out the kind of man that he was and reconnect with his memory in some way and honour his memory. I want to start off this episode by talking a little bit about gambling. As I record this, it's the 12th of April 2026. It's the day after the Grand National, which is obviously a big gambling day. And I've spoken before about my dad's love of horse racing, but I've never spoken really about his relationship with gambling in general. So I've collated a few stories related to gambling from over the years. So I'm just going to consult my handy list here. I've tried to do these in some kind of chronological order. So first of all, my dad loved horse racing so much that when my mum and dad got married, which I think was in 1996 or 1995, around that time, they didn't have a night do. Everyone just went to the races. So they got married at the registry office in the morning, and I'll talk more about that another time. But then everybody went back to my mum and dad's house for a bit, and then everybody went to the races. That's what they did for their kind of, instead of an evening do or a night do or whatever, everyone went to the races. So while we were there, Liam, a good friend of mine, we were both, I think I'd have been about 9, he'd have been 11, I think, something like that. He asked my dad to put a bet on for him. And obviously when you're a kid, well, as an adult this is still the case for me, but especially when you're a kid, when you're picking horses to put a bet on, you're doing it just based on either the name or the colours or both. So Liam had picked this horse just out of nowhere, totally at random. Gave my dad some money to put on. I don't know how much, maybe a £5 or something like that. And my dad said, yeah, I'll put that on for you. You can probably tell where this story's going to go. Anyway, he looked at the horse, my dad did, and he considered himself a real expert in horse racing. And he thought, well, that horse has got no chance. I won't put the bet on, and I'll give him the money back after the race. Obviously, he didn't put the bet on. The horse won, and my dad had to, on his own wedding day, had to, out of his own money, pay out the bet to Liam to the tune of, as he remembers it, about 65 quid. So quite a bitter blow on your own wedding day, I would suggest. And he complained bitterly about that for many years afterwards. So that's one for him that was a negative one, but a more positive one was the 1997 FA Cup final. So I'd watched the cup final before. I remember watching the Man United Liverpool 1-0 one, the Cantona one, and also the Paul Rideout one. This will mean nothing if you're not a football fan, but basically I think I'd watched the 95, the 96 cup finals, I think they were. But the 97 one, I was 10 then. And it was the first time when I was like properly into football and enough to like know what was going on, and I was watching football all the time and stuff like that. So my dad said, well, why not put a bet on for you? Why don't you have a first goal scorer bet? So he got his racing post out and he showed me the players and the odds. And I went for Roberto Di Matteo, a flamboyant Chelsea midfielder at the time. And he scored a fantastic goal after 43 seconds. And I backed him, I think it's 16-1. I think I only had £2 on it, so it wasn't about the money. For my dad, it was about, looking back at it now as a father, I can imagine the joy of putting your first bet on for your son and then seeing it win within 43 seconds of the match starting. And it was like an iconic goal. At the time, it was the fastest goal ever scored in the cup final. I think it's been surpassed now. But I remember my dad celebrated so wildly that it made my brother cry. Because it was such an unexpected uproar of emotion that my dad showed, it's such a fond memory of me and my dad just jumping around our front room, and then him taking me physically into the bookies with the betting slip to collect my money. Like what a great moment. Love that. And then a couple more. One in around about 2003. We used to read the Racing Post in our house all the time, and there was an article in there they used to do this thing in the Racing Post football section. It was like around the grounds where they'd send I think it was a guy called Mark Landon, and they'd send him to a different football league ground, and he'd do a little write-up where it'd be like half-time entertainment, atmosphere, all that kind of stuff. It was good, it was fun. And he came to Bellevue, the old Doncaster Rovers ground, that year, early on in the season, and we beat someone 5-0 or 5-1. And 3 teams get promoted from what was Division 3 at that time. And he signed off this little kind of mini review thing by saying, Doncaster are 33-1 to get promoted. There is no way that there are 3 better teams than these in the league. Lump on. And Rovers, not only did they get promoted, they won the league that season at a canter. And my dad was horrified that he didn't put any money on. As the season got closer to ending and it became clear we were going to win the league, I could tell it really haunted him that he didn't put any money on that 33-1 shot, because a 33-1 shot is not to be sniffed at, as we know. So that's one. And then another one, maybe when I was about 18, so a few years after that, me and my friends from school had gone to the races, and whenever I went to the races, because I didn't do it very often, I'd ring my dad and I'd say, have you got any tips? And he'd always say, yeah, my tip is don't listen to people who say they've got tips. And he always refused to give me any tips, which is probably for the best, knowing his luck. But yeah, I rang him because my good friend Ryan Beardsley, he'd lost quite a lot of money throughout the day, and he decided he was going to put loads of money on a heavy favourite. The thinking being, well, it's definitely going to win, so I can make back the money that I've lost and win a bit extra on top. And I rang my dad to tell him about this, and I'll never forget it. The horse was called Dayflight, and my dad said that is a terrible idea. Do not do that. That's called buying money. That's what gamblers call it. Don't ever. It's chasing your losses. Don't do it. And I can't remember if I relayed this to Beard or not, but either way, the horse didn't win. I think it came like 5th or something. And doing that, like trying to put loads of money on a heavy favourite, became known as doing a day flight in our house. So if ever I was talking about putting money on a heavy favourite, my dad would say, remember Beard and day flight? And I'd do it anyway, because I'm an idiot. Anyway, yeah, so some nice gambling memories there. My dad was he loved horse racing, but he wasn't like a massive gambler or anything like that. He was known actually amongst his friend circle for being quite reserved in his gambling. He'd often go to a full race meet and not have a bet. But yeah, he was something that he enjoyed, and it was something that we both enjoyed together. And if ever I had a bet on anything, I'd always ring him to tell him about it. And I miss those kind of chats about betting, and I've lost my appetite for it since he's been gone. Which is, again, is probably for the best. The Johnsons, me and my dad, were not known for our luck, I will say. So yeah, probably for the best. Right, I've rambled on long enough. That brings us on to this week's album, which is The River by Bruce Springsteen. So I don't know how long I've been talking, so I best kind of whip through this pretty quickly. The River was released on the 17th of October 1980, when my dad would be just about to turn 28. So I imagine he bought this at the time. It's still in pretty good nick. So I've already taken stuff out ready. It's a double album, The River. So you've got the 2 vinyls here, still in good shape. There's nothing much on the actual record itself, so I'm going to keep that in the sleeve. And then you've got this beautiful lyric sheet. So it's got all that stuff on that side, and then on the other side it's just the lyrics. And again, that is in very good condition. And then the album cover itself. I can find it, there we go. There's the actual album cover. The boss looking cool as ever. So now you might notice this one is well, as I've said, it's in good condition. That is because I know that my dad didn't enjoy this one as much as Ashby Park or Born to Run, or Darts on the Edge of Town for that matter. This is Springsteen's 5th album. Now, I'll just want to talk briefly about double albums, and the conclusion that I've reached in my years of listening to music is that double albums are a bad idea. Nearly every double album ever made would be better as a single album if you just got rid of some of the fat. So I include the White Album by the Beatles in that. I include Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness by the Smashing Pumpkins in that. I can't think of an example of a double album which needs to be a double album. And then you've got like the Red Hot Chili Peppers making a double album, that's Stadium Arcadium. No one in the history of music has listened to a Red Hot Chili Peppers album and thought, do you know what, that was good, but I wish I had 45 minutes more on top of that. Never has anyone thought that. And as I say, I can't think of one example where that is the case. And I think the same about The River. The River is an amazing album, especially in the context of how do you follow Born to Run and Darkness on the Edge of Town, two of the greatest rock albums ever made. Impossible to follow those albums up. So I can see why he wrote 50 songs. He recorded rather 50 songs for the sessions for The River. So it must have been very difficult to whittle them down. But this album 100% would benefit from a little editing. So it's kind of it straddles two different kind of subgenres almost, this album. On the one hand,